At 9:17 on a Tuesday morning, every screen in Graybridge went black, every traffic light turned red, and a silver number appeared above every living person's head.
Catastrophe protocol is now active. Eliminate hostile entities to earn combat points. Rankings will update in real time.
For 3 quiet seconds, a city of 400,000 people waited for someone else to decide whether the message was real. Then a hairless creature climbed through the windshield of a stalled delivery van, and a man with a tire iron killed it in the middle of Jefferson Avenue.
First elimination confirmed. Strength increased by 1. Combat ranking unlocked.
The man laughed when the silver number above his head changed from 0 to 10. Everyone close enough to see him understood the lesson at once. By 9:19, people were chasing creatures through intersections, filming their first kills and shouting point totals across streets that had stopped belonging to the city. Caleb Ward saw the same reward window as everyone else. He also saw the district warning on his emergency tablet climb from yellow to orange after every kill.
That's backward. If they're removing threats, the incident level should be falling.
His answer came as a city bus swerved around 3 amateur hunters, struck a light pole, and rolled onto its side with 27 passengers trapped inside. Caleb had no weapon beyond a folding utility knife, no enhanced strength, and no reason to believe a checklist could compete with monsters. He ran toward the bus anyway, because a crash was still a crash, even if the sky had turned it into a game.
If you can stand, move uphill and stay behind the concrete divider. Do not pull anyone through broken glass. Who knows how to shut off a diesel line?
I do. Rear access panel curbside. Give me 30 seconds and keep sparks away from the leak.
Luis Ortega crawled beneath the tilted bus while Caleb counted voices, marked injuries with strips torn from a transit map, and assigned strangers tasks before panic could assign them worse ones. A woman in teal scrubs climbed through the emergency hatch, landed hard, and immediately turned back toward the trapped passengers.
I have one possible spinal injury and 2 people losing blood. I need clean cloth, pressure, and somebody who can follow instructions without becoming inspirational.
You heard her. Blue jacket, bring the first aid kit. Gray hoodie, hold pressure where she points. Everyone else clear the exit lane.
The creatures reached the intersection before the last passengers were out. Behind them came people swinging pipes and kitchen knives, eager for points.
Do not fight beside the fuel spill. Draw them east away from the bus.
Most of the hunters ignored him. Lewis did not. He struck the bus horn with a wrench, and the sound pulled the creatures toward an empty parking garage.
Loud systems are easy. People hear one alarm and forget the 5 quiet things about to fail.
Caleb and Dana moved the final passenger seconds before a hunter's wild swing shattered the bus's fuel line. The hunters gained 20 more points. The orange warning on Kaleb's tablet became red.
Public incident resolved. 27 civilians evacuated. 1 verified service record issued.
The message was small, blue, and almost hidden behind the glowing combat leaderboard that had expanded across the sky.
Did either of you get that?
I got blood on my shoes and a citywide murder scoreboard. You will need to be more specific.
A service record. Counted the evacuation, not the kills.
Great. Can the service record tow a bus? Or is it another certificate nobody funds?
A second wave of creatures spilled from the parking garage. Caleb looked at the injured passengers, the useless bus, and the public library 2 blocks uphill.
The library was an emergency cooling center. It has reinforced doors, a backup radio, and a roof intake above street level.
It also has no trauma ward, no oxygen line, and no reason to be safe.
It has an address the city already recognizes as public. Right now, that's more than we have here.
They loaded the worst injuries onto rolling office chairs, luggage carts, and the bus's detached wheelchair ramp. Caleb walked last, not because he felt brave, but because he was still counting 27 names and could not accept returning with 26. When they reached the library, the glass entrance had been chained from inside by 6 employees and 30 frightened residents.
City Emergency Management. We have injured people, a nurse, and a mechanic who can keep your generator alive.
The chain remained in place. A woman behind the glass pointed at the creatures, gathering downhill, and shook her head.
If they keep the door closed, 3 of these people die before sunset.
Then we give them a safer choice, not a guilt speech.
Caleb held his tablet against the glass, displaying the verified evacuation record and the city's old cooling center designation.
Open the side delivery door for 90 seconds. We set a clean entry lane, quarantine the injured section, and reinforce your generator room. If the system recognizes this building the way it recognized the bus evacuation, everyone inside gains more than the space you give up.
The woman behind the glass looked at the blue record, then at Dana pressing both hands against a teenager's wound. The chain came loose. For the next hour, the library stopped being a place where people waited and became a machine built out of human attention.
We need drinking water, sanitation, medical triage, power, food inventory, missing person intake, and exterior observation. Write every need on a separate card. Put a name beside it only when someone accepts responsibility.
Add medication allergies, mobility limits, and last tetanus shot. Also add a column for people who lie because they are scared.
Generator has 6 hours at this load. 4 if everyone charges a phone. 2 if somebody finds the thermostat and decides civilization means 72 degrees.
Caleb taped a city evacuation map across the circulation desk and turned library cards into task slips. A retired teacher counted children. 2 teenagers filled every clean container. A delivery driver mapped block streets from memory. Nobody gained strength. Nobody appeared on the sky ranking. Still, blue service notices began arriving one by one.
Verified need resolved. Drinking water distributed to 43 civilians. Service record issued. Verified need resolved. Medical triage established. Service record issued. Verified need resolved. Missing dependent reunited with guardian. Service record issued.
It counted, finding a 6-year-old's aunt.
Because the need was real, the result was verified, and we did not repeat it for points.
So the system has paperwork. I finally found an enemy I understand.
The joke earned the first tired laugh inside the building. Caleb opened the details panel on the blue record and found a sentence printed in gray beneath the value.
Service records are non-transferable and cannot be applied to personal combat attributes.
Meaning nobody can eat them, sell them, or use them to become king.
Meaning they have another destination.
He searched the library's public designation and found a locked system entry labeled Municipal Shelter Registration.
Registration requirement. 100 distinct verified services completed within a recognized public use structure. Repeated service to the same recipient does not qualify. Simulated need does not qualify. Unresolved need does not qualify.
They had 12 records.
We have 3 critical patients. Enough antibiotics for maybe 2 days. And creatures testing the doors. Your number is not our biggest problem.
The number is a list of problems we have to solve anyway.
That answer is dangerously close to optimism.
It's inventory.
Caleb divided large needs into honest, verifiable outcomes without turning people into point farms. Purifying water was one service. Testing it was another. Posting the safe amount per person was a third, because information changed what people could safely do. Clearing one wheelchair route counted. Clearing a second route to the same room did not until it connected a different exit. Treating a wound counted once. Training 3 people to change the dressing counted only when they successfully did it without Dana correcting them.
Do not chase the counter if the patient does not benefit. The task is theater, and theater does not stop bleeding.
Every card needs a person with a need, a person responsible, and a result anyone can check.
At 29 records, the building's toilets stopped flushing.
City pressure is gone. The roof tank will give us hand washing for an hour if nobody uses it like a shower.
At 34 records, a creature rammed the south door hard enough to bend its frame. At 41, a diabetic man admitted his insulin was trapped in an apartment 6 blocks away.
We do not send one person on one errand. Pair the insulin run with the pharmacy inventory and the radio relay check.
You are stacking objectives in hostile streets.
I'm making one risk solve 3 verified needs. If the route fails, we turn back with the people, not the supplies.
Caleb led the trip because asking someone else to test his plan would have been another way of hiding from the decision. They moved through alleys while combat teams hunted on the main streets, their point totals flashing above them like casino signs. At the pharmacy, Caleb found medicine scattered across the floor and a teenager trapped behind a security gate.
We came for insulin, but the trapped person comes first. Lewis, find the manual release. Dana, talk to him so he stops pulling against the bars.
Motor is dead, chain is jammed, and the emergency crank was installed by somebody who hated human wrists.
Kid, look at me. You are not stuck forever. You are stuck until the man insulting the door runs out of insults.
The teenager laughed once, released his grip, and gave Lewis enough slack to lift the gate.
Verified rescue completed. Service record issued.
Caleb collected insulin from a powerless refrigerator, marked every package with the remaining safe-use window, and refused 3 bottles offered by a stranger in exchange for combat points.
We do not trade medicine for a currency nobody understands.
They returned with 6 people, 2 carts of medical supplies, a portable radio repeater, and 58 total service records. The library cheered for less than a minute before the backup generator coughed and the lights dimmed.
Fuel filter is full of rust. I can clean it, but I need the load cut in half while I work.
Medical outlets stay live. Elevators shut down. 1 light per occupied room. Every charged phone joins the message relay or powers off.
A dozen people objected, until Caleb posted the generator's remaining minutes where everyone could see them.
Amazing. Numbers become persuasive when they are not floating above a man's head.
The building grew darker, but the work became more organized. Residents cooked thawing food before it spoiled, cataloged tools, established quiet rooms, reinforced doors, translated emergency messages, and checked every floor for people who had gone silent. Each completed need turned 1 square on KAYLUB's old city map from gray to blue. At 93 records, they ran out of obvious tasks.
7 unresolved needs. Do not invent new ones. Read the board again.
We need more antibiotics, more water, a functioning ambulance, and several miracles that have not submitted forms.
West stairwell emergency light is dead. Roof drain is clogged. Book return is open to the street. That's 3.
A child raised her hand and said her grandfather could not hear the evacuation announcements.
Accessible alerts. That's a real need.
A librarian found battery lights, a teacher made visual instruction cards, and the teenager from the pharmacy set up a text relay for deaf residents.
Verified accessibility service completed. Service record issued.
A woman asked where deceased family members would be recorded if nobody could recover them. The room went still, because survival had left no space for grief until someone named it as a need.
We make a record, names, last known locations, who is looking, and who has been told. No rumors.
Information confirmed and families notified. That is public service too.
The 99th record came from a sanitation schedule that kept the medical room from becoming a second emergency. The 100th came when Lewis restored the west stairwell light, and an elderly woman safely reached the ground floor.
100 distinct verified services completed. Public use structure eligibility confirmed. Municipal shelter registration available. Designate service records to shared civic defense.
Yes, designate all eligible records to the building.
Municipal shelter, level 1, registered. Ownership claim denied. Public stewardship required.
A thin blue line traveled across the library floor, climbed the walls, and spread over the glass like clear ice. The creatures outside struck the barrier and recoiled. For the first time since 9/17, the people inside Graybridge Public Library believed they might still be alive at sunset.
I withdraw my complaint about the certificate.
File the withdrawal in triplicate.
The relief ended when the barrier above the medical room flickered. A crack appeared in the blue field directly over the 3 patients waiting for antibiotics.
The defense is not a fixed health bar. It is mapping unmet needs.
Then our roof is announcing my patient list to every monster outside.
When the roof tank emptied, the barrier on the north wall thinned until the street was visible through it.
Water fails north, shield fails north. Medical backlog grows upstairs, shield cracks upstairs.
It protects the services we are actually maintaining, not the promises we wrote down.
Caleb opened the shelter details and found a power diagram with no central owner.
Civic defense reflects verified public needs currently met. Abandoned obligations create corresponding exposure. Service records may support facilities, response routes, and shared defense. Personal attribute allocation prohibited.
Good. The building cannot lie for us.
and no one person can take it away by dying.
A burst of applause sounded outside, followed by a voice amplified through a portable speaker.
Graybridge, your #1 survivor has arrived. If you can hear me, the south block is clear.
Malik Stone walked up the library steps wearing black and red armor, followed by 23 fighters whose point totals glowed brighter than the streetlights. He had been a professional gaming streamer before the catastrophe. By noon, more people were watching his live feed than the city's emergency broadcast.
You built a safe zone without a combat owner. That's impressive. It is also temporary.
The registration specifically denied an ownership claim.
Systems say things. Monsters break things. My team handles the second category. Give me defense command, let my people farm the perimeter, and I will put this place under the protection of the top-ranked squad.
People inside heard one promise clearly. Malik could kill what frightened them.
We need fighters. We do not need an owner.
Nurse, when the barrier breaks, you will not treat a principal. You will treat whoever is left.
Correct. That is why I do not put every patient under one man's ego.
Malik smiled for the people filming him, but the muscles near his jaw tightened.
Your team can enter under the same conditions as everyone else. Surrender weapons inside, accept public assignments, and no hunting within the shelter boundary.
You want the strongest people in this district sorting canned food.
I want people with high mobility clearing evacuation routes, protecting repair crews, and carrying patients. Strength is useful. Ownership is not.
Put it to a vote.
The request spread through the library faster than any emergency notice. Residents who had worked all day to build the shelter still looked through the glass at Malik's glowing rank and wondered whether Caleb was refusing the only obvious protection.
We can vote on policy. We cannot vote away the rule that keeps the barrier active.
Then prove the rule.
Caleb displayed the shelter panel, the medical crack, the water gap, and the line denying ownership.
This is what we know. Defense follows needs actually met. Violence inside creates exposure. Public stewardship is mandatory. This is what we do not know. How much pressure the barrier can take, what happens when the district warning reaches maximum, and why kills raise that warning.
What you do not know is larger than what you know. My results are visible.
So are the warnings that follow them.
The vote allowed Malik's team inside as public responders, but denied him command authority and prohibited point farming near the boundary. 8 of Malik's fighters accepted the terms. The others stayed outside with him.
I hope your wall understands democracy when the next wave comes.
The next wave came 11 minutes later. Dozens of creatures poured from the subway entrance, drawn by the largest concentration of survivors in the district.
Squad forward. Keep them on the steps and stack the points.
Pull back from the blue line. Fight downhill if you have to fight.
Malik leaped over the barrier boundary and drove a steel spear through the first creature before Caleb finished speaking.
Elite elimination confirmed. Combat points awarded. Regional rank increased.
The sky cheered for Malik in gold letters. The library barrier split open beside the children's room.
Children to the archive hall. Move now. No bags, no arguing.
West shutters are not closing. The barrier crack is crossing the track.
Cut the shutter motor and close it by hand. I need every combat timestamp on the incident map.
The 8 fighters inside carried shelves against the children's room doors, while residents pulled the heavy shutter down with extension cords. Outside, Malik killed 6 more creatures. With every golden reward, another blue seam opened in the shelter.
Malik, stop killing inside the marked perimeter.
The things trying to eat you are the problem ward.
Your last 7 kills produced 7 new breaches. Break contact for 30 seconds and watch the barrier.
Malik heard the certainty in Kaleb's voice and gave the order, if only to prove him wrong.
Hold. Nobody finishes a target.
Fighters blocked, shoved, and retreated without killing. The crack stopped spreading. Then a frightened resident stabbed a creature through the barrier with a broken table leg.
Elimination confirmed. Combat points awarded.
A new hole opened exactly where the table leg crossed the blue line.
That is your proof. If anybody wants a second demonstration, volunteer your own room.
A local penalty does not explain the city warning.
No, but the timestamps might.
Lewis opened the west shutter, just enough to roll a maintenance cart outside.
We can move them without killing. Bus horn flare and a downhill grade, like clearing animals off a runway.
Malik's team formed a moving wall while Lewis sounded the horn, and Caleb marked a path toward the empty stadium. The creatures followed noise and motion. The fighters took injuries, lost points they could have earned, and kept the route open anyway.
Verified hazard relocation completed. Public response route established. Service records issued.
The barrier repaired one crack and strengthened along the new route.
My people did the dangerous part. The points went to the road.
Because the road protects everyone who uses it.
And who gets stronger?
The system we are standing inside.
Malik looked at the repaired barrier as if it had personally insulted him. Caleb layered combat timestamps over emergency calls, power failures, monster appearances, and the district warning history. The pattern was not perfect. It was worse than perfect because it was consistent.
Every kill adds pressure to the same district within 12 seconds. The warning increases even when the dead creature was nowhere near a shelter.
The system pays people to clean blood off one end of the knife, while it sharpens the other.
That's not a reward loop. That's a debt meter with the label removed.
Thread dead.
Caleb searched the shelter interface for the phrase. The public panel returned nothing. The city's old emergency archive returned a damaged system, notice hidden behind an incident code.
Regional threat debt 82%. Source details unavailable to unregistered combat administrators.
Convenient. The man with no combat rank finds a hidden number proving combat is bad.
I found a number proving the district is approaching a consequence. I do not know what the consequence is.
My team has survived every consequence so far.
Your team also opened 7 holes above children.
Malik's followers stopped watching Caleb and began watching one another. Some had built their entire plan around Malik being right. Others had just carried a maintenance cart through a monster wave and watched a road become stronger than their weapons.
Fine. No hunting inside the line until we know more. Outside it, I make my own calls.
The debt is regional. The line may not matter.
Then bring me evidence that is not a damaged file and a scared nurse.
I can give you the nurse's evidence now, but you will not enjoy the examination.
Before Malik could answer, the radio desk received a broken transmission from the East Bypass. 3 family vans and a pickup were trapped behind a collapsed overpass, with 11 adults, 8 children and creatures closing from both directions.
Tell them to hold position and turn off every horn and light. Ask for injuries, water, fuel, useful cargo, and a route they can verify.
The answers were not good. 2 fevers, 1 deep arm wound, almost no drinking water, and less than a quarter tank of fuel. The pickup did carry replacement membranes and valves from a water treatment contractor.
Those membranes fit the North Plant's emergency skids. They could give this entire district clean pressure.
If we admit 19 people, my antibiotics are gone by tomorrow morning.
Residents crowded around the task board. The shelter vote leaned toward closing the route.
This is what your public system does, Ward. It turns every stranger into an expense and asks frightened people to feel noble about it.
No, it makes the expense visible.
Caleb looked at the water crack, the medical backlog, and the convoy's list of skills.
Conditional entry. They bring the water components, disclose symptoms before arrival, and follow an outdoor screening route. In return, we send an escort, provide immediate treatment, and assign work only after rest and evaluation.
Febrile patients isolate in the meeting room. Nobody hides medication. And nobody gets priority because they carried expensive equipment.
I take a bus and 2 mechanics. If the bypass is blocked, we bring the people back before the parts.
You are risking fighters and fuel on people who may not reach the door.
I'm spending 1 risk to solve transportation, water, medical screening, and an evacuation gap.
You make everything sound like a form.
Forms are promises with witnesses.
The rescue bus left under a strengthening blue route, while Malik's fighters guarded its blind side without taking a single kill. Creatures followed for 3 blocks. Lewis kept the bus just fast enough to remain prey, and just slow enough for the convoy to merge behind it.
Do not race the bus. Follow the blue markers. If my brake lights blink twice, stop before you discover what I discovered.
1 van stalled beneath the overpass. 2 of Malik's fighters wanted to abandon it.
The engine is flooded, not dead. Give me 40 seconds and a clear rear quarter.
Malik's people held the creatures back with shields and noise. Lewis restarted the van in 37 seconds.
Multi-household evacuation completed. Conditional public entry requirements satisfied. Service records issued.
When the convoy crossed the library boundary, the barrier did not weaken. It extended a blue line around the pickup and connected to the water components in its bed.
Critical utility component acquired. North Water node registration available.
That is the nicest sentence any machine has ever said to me.
Ask it for antibiotics before you propose.
2 convoy members had worked at the treatment plant. They drew a route, listed the controls that could still run manually, and accepted public responsibility for the repair. The shelter had not become safer by pretending resources were unlimited. It had become safer by making a limited exchange visible and enforceable.
If they had nothing useful, would you have left them?
No, I would have offered a different condition and told everyone the cost. Open does not mean careless, and limited does not mean disposable.
Malik had no fast answer, which was rare enough that his live audience began arguing in the comments for him. At 6:42 in the evening, Lewis's repair team reached the North Water plant. At 6:49, the pumps turned once, shuttered, and began sending a thin column of treated water toward the district.
North Water node registered. Municipal shelter network capacity increased.
The blue barrier thickened along every pipe shown on the old utility map. At 6:50, the regional threat debt reached 90%. A red silhouette appeared on every system screen, built from hundreds of incident symbols that never closed.
Warning: regional threat debt is approaching collection threshold. Upon threshold, the collector will target the valid settlement containing the largest civilian population.
Every person in the library understood that their success had made them the target.
Then we move the civilians and leave a strike team. When the collector arrives, we kill it outside the shelter and take the city reward.
The notice calls it collection, not an attack. We still do not know what killing it does.
We know what waiting does. It puts every child in this building under a red target.
Moving critical patients without a receiving site kills them more reliably than any monster.
The buses can evacuate maybe 60 people per trip. Roads are blocked, fuel is low, and darkness adds opinions to every pothole.
We prepare evacuation, but we do not abandon the network until we understand the incident.
Caleb searched the old emergency archive for the collector's red symbol. The symbol appeared beside a manual nobody had opened in years. Mass Casualty Incident Closure, Municipal Standard 4. Most of the pages were corrupted. 4 checkboxes remained readable.
Civilian evacuation complete. Essential water restored. Medical requests assigned to functioning destinations. Public status response transmitted.
Those are not victory conditions. Those are the things a city does after the bleeding stops.
Maybe the bleeding has never stopped. Maybe every kill becomes another unresolved incident.
Or maybe you found an old checklist and decided the apocalypse respects municipal standards.
The apocalypse already recognized a cooling center, a transit route, a water plant, and an accessibility service. It did not replace the city. It attached rewards to the parts of the city people were willing to see.
Malik turned toward his remaining followers, and the red silhouette growing on every screen.
I will not bet 23 lives on a damaged handbook.
Then do not. Help us satisfy the conditions while we prepare your strike. We can test both plans without feeding the dead.
If your conditions fail, I take the shot.
If you take it before we know, you may restart the thing on top of everyone.
Then learn fast.
Caleb divided the shelter into 4 response desks, matching the old closure standard.
Luis owns evacuation and water transport. Dana owns medical destinations. I own public status in the final incident log. Malik, protect every crew that leaves this building. No eliminations unless a person's life cannot be saved another way.
You are asking fighters trained for points to win by not scoring.
I'm asking them to protect people instead of a number.
For the first time, Malik ended his live stream without a closing line. The plan lasted 6 minutes before somebody broke it. 3 of Malik's outside followers lured a cluster of creatures toward the library, hoping the concentrated wave would summon the collector early and produce a larger reward.
Regional threat debt, 96%.
Who gave that order?
Nobody answered. The camera on one fighter's chest was still streaming. The first kill raised the debt to 97. The second raised it to 98 and opened a breach above Dana's triage room.
Barrier failure over medical. Move anyone who can walk. Keep oxygen away from the windows.
The third kill pushed the warning to 99 and split the blue field from the library steps to the circulation desk.
South bus is loaded, but the route marker just disappeared.
The active violence severed the public route. We restore it by resolving the harm.
One of the rogue fighters fell through the breach with a creature on top of him. Residents pulled back. He had helped create the attack, and closing the inner doors would have kept everyone else safer.
If we shut him out, He dies in under a minute.
Bringing him in may widen the medical gap.
That is the cost. Make the decision.
Years earlier, Caleb had delayed a wildfire reroute because the approved order had not arrived. A neighborhood bus lost 40 minutes, and 2 people never made it out. He had spent every day since then building checklists strong enough to hide behind.
Open the inner door. Malik, pull your man in. Everyone else seal the side aisles and accept the medical exposure.
He caused this.
He is also part of the incident we have to close.
Malik crossed the broken field, lifted his injured follower, and carried him into the same medical room the man's kills had exposed.
Weapon on the floor. Pressure here. If you want forgiveness. Survive long enough to become useful.
Verified rescue completed under active civic exposure. Mutual aid conditions satisfied. Mutual aid node unlocked. Eligible public facilities may share service records and response capacity.
Blue lines burst from the library map toward the fire station, bus maintenance depot, neighborhood clinic, and North Water plant.
There, the system finally noticed the city is more than one building.
The debt reached 100% before anyone could celebrate.
Collection threshold reached. Largest valid civilian settlement locked.
The red symbols above Graybridge fell like ash and assembled in the street. Ambulance icons became ribs. Broken water mains formed arms. Missing person notices layered into a face with no eyes. The collector stood 6 stories tall, not like a creature born to hunt, but like every emergency the city had failed to finish.
Collection target confirmed. Unresolved mass casualty incident exceeds regional capacity.
That thing has a health bar.
Look below it.
Beneath the red bar were the same 4 incomplete closure boxes from the municipal manual.
Then we do not treat the bar. We treat the cause.
And if it reaches the door before your city finishes its paperwork.
You buy the city time without adding another body to the bill.
The collector stepped forward. Every unresolved request in its body screamed through nearby radios at once.
All nodes, this is Graybridge Municipal Shelter. Mutual aid network is active. Confirm your capacity and accept assignments now.
The fire station answered with 2 engines, 12 trained responders, and no fuel for a 3rd trip. The clinic answered with 9 beds, 1 surgeon, and room for 20 walking wounded if power remained stable. The water plant answered with partial pressure, and a valve team trapped behind debris. The bus depot answered with 4 running vehicles, 40 gallons of diesel, and drivers who had assumed nobody was still directing traffic.
You are now. Fire station, clear the clinic route. Clinic, publish triage capacity every 5 minutes. Water node, hold pressure to the hospital corridor first. Bus depot, begin zone evacuation in the order on your public list.
I can take the lead bus, but the East Bridge signal is dead.
Use the library repeater. The pharmacy teenager built a text relay that does not need the signal controller.
The accessibility service nobody had considered heroic became the only way to coordinate drivers through the dark intersection.
Public response route verified. Evacuation capacity increased.
The collector swung an arm of broken water mains at the library. Malik's fighters raised shields, not weapons, and diverted the blow into the empty plaza.
Rotate on impact. Do not stab the symbols. Every mark you break tries to rebuild behind us.
His followers obeyed because the instruction came from the man who had taught them to chase every kill. The first evacuation bus left the library with children, critical patients, and people unable to travel without assistance.
Clinic has 9 beds. Send the chest injury. The insulin patient. Both fevers. And nobody else. Until they confirm discharge space.
A resident accused her of choosing favorites.
The criteria are on the wall. The capacity is on the radio. And my name is beside the decision. That is not favoritism. That is accountability.
Medical requests assigned to functioning destinations. Closure condition 1 of 4 completed.
A section of ambulance icons vanished from the collector's chest.
The body maps the conditions. Complete a service, remove the corresponding incident.
Though if I hit the empty section, it stays gone.
Do not test that with a kill. Keep it away from the route.
Lewis drove the lead bus through streets lit by phones in apartment windows. Residents who could not reach a shelter flashed room numbers and needs through the text relay.
Route 7 mark every pickup you cannot take. The next bus needs facts, not apologies.
At the North plant, the valve team used the public route to cross debris, while firefighters held creatures back with hoses and noise.
Essential water service restored to designated emergency corridor. Closure condition 2 of 4 completed.
The collector's pipe-made arms dissolved from the elbows down. It still reached the library, its remaining hand pressed against the barrier, and every unmet need inside became a red crack.
We are losing the north wall because 47 residents still have no destination.
Then we stop calling the library the destination. Fire station, open your training floor for temporary housing. Bus depot, open the break rooms. Water node, confirm sanitation capacity.
Each facility hesitated for the same reason the library had hesitated that morning. Opening a door made someone else's danger visible inside.
You are not being asked for unlimited entry. State your limits, your conditions, and the need you can actually meet.
The fire station accepted 20 people with mobility. The bus depot accepted 30 who could help maintain vehicles. The water plant accepted 10 trained utility workers and their families.
Distributed shelter assignments verified. Civilian evacuation in progress.
Malik's squad was being forced backward one step at a time.
Ward, I can break the core. I can see it now.
A red sphere pulsed behind the collector's ribs. Above it floated a reward larger than every point Malik had earned that day.
Collector Core Elimination Reward. City Administrator Authority and Total Regional Combat Allocation.
Malik raised his spear.
If you destroy that core, the system transfers the debt into the next cycle.
You do not know that.
The reward offers the same authority the shelter refused to give any owner. It is not paying you to end the system. It is paying you to inherit the collection.
And if you are wrong, people die while I stand here holding the weapon that could stop it.
If I am wrong, that decision is mine. I told the city not to take the shot.
Caleb said it without a policy citation, without a supervisor, and without the shelter vote to absorb the blame.
But if you are wrong, the next settlement pays for your rank, and nobody gets to vote because you own the city.
Malik's live feed had restarted automatically when the administrator reward appeared. Thousands of viewers watched the undefeated #1 survivor hesitate.
My people followed me because I kept winning.
Then show them winning can mean stopping.
One of Malik's fighters lowered her blade. Then another pushed the spear point away from the red core.
You think one bad call makes everything we did worthless?
No, refusing to change after the evidence would do that.
Malik looked at the wounded follower in Dana's medical room, at the barrier his kills had opened, and at the blue route his squad had protected without scoring. He lowered the spear.
Squad defensive rotation. No core strike. We hold until every bus clears.
His ranking did not increase. For the first time that day, nobody cheered because a number moved.
Civilian population has exited primary lock zone. Closure condition 3 of 4 completed.
The missing person notices peeled from the collector's face and rose into the night like paper birds. One condition remained: public status response transmitted.
The system wants a response, not a warning. We have to tell the entire region what happened and what they can do about it.
Emergency broadcast tower is dead.
The library repeater can reach bus radios. Bus radios can reach the fire engines. Fire engines can reach the weather relay on County Hill.
A chain is enough. Put every node on the same channel.
Phones, vehicle radios, library terminals, and old weather receivers clicked into one imperfect network. Caleb opened the incident log. It contained every elimination, every debt increase, every service record, and every shelter breach since 9/17.
Graybridge, this is Caleb Ward with Municipal Emergency Management. The combat reward is real. So is the cost it hides. Every elimination adds threat debt to the region. When the debt reaches its limit, the system collects from the largest civilian settlement. Do not attack the collector's core. Killing it transfers authority and leaves the public incident unresolved. Verify needs. Restore water. Assign medical destinations. Move civilians through public routes. Publish limits and results where anyone can check them. If you are alone, report one need and one thing you can do. If you have a shelter, state what you can accept and what you cannot. This is not a promise that everyone will be saved. It is a method that stops us from making the same emergency larger.
The message left the library, crossed 4 buses, 2 fire engines, the water plant, and a weather relay held together with extension cable. Replies returned from neighborhoods Caleb had assumed were silent. A church basement had room for 12. A grocery freezer had medicine but no power. An apartment tower had a working well pump and no safe stairwell. For the first time, the city was not broadcasting only fear. It was exchanging needs, limits, and offers.
Public incident status received and independently verified. Mass casualty, incident closure requirements satisfied. Closure condition 4 of 4 completed.
The red core in the collector's chest stopped pulsing. Ambulance icons became blue route markers. Broken pipes became water lines. Unanswered calls became addresses on the public response map. The 6-story body folded inward without an explosion, without a final strike, and without awarding a single combat point.
Regional threat debt cleared. Collector converted to civic core.
The library barrier sealed every breach. Across Graybridge, blue lines linked the fire station, clinic, bus depot, water plant, shelters, and every responding household.
The whole city just turned into one very complicated bus route.
Try not to repair the city with a wrench.
No promises. The wrench has seniority.
The laughter that followed was quiet, exhausted, and real.
Civic core requires an administrator. Highest verified coordination contribution identified. Caleb Ward. Accept sole administrator authority and allocate all regional service capacity.
A silver crown appeared above Kaylub's name. It offered no strength, but it offered something more dangerous, the power to decide where every public resource went.
You earned it.
That does not mean one person should have it.
Caleb thought of the delayed wildfire bus, the chain on the library door, and every moment people had waited for permission while time became damage.
Decline sole administration.
Warning: without a sole administrator, allocation efficiency may decrease.
So does the damage one bad decision can cause. Divide the civic core among verified public nodes. Require published capacity, named responsibility, and revocable access for every allocation.
Distributed municipal stewardship is not the recommended configuration.
Neither was saving the city without killing the boss.
The silver crown broke into dozens of small blue markers.
Distributed municipal stewardship accepted. Civic nodes registered.
The combat leaderboard faded from the sky. In its place appeared a public map of water pressure, medical space, blocked routes, open shelters, unanswered calls, and people already responding.
My rank is gone.
Your work is still on the map.
Malik looked at the blue line showing where his squad had held the evacuation route.
That is going to be harder to explain on a stream.
Try the truth. It has fewer graphics, but the retention might surprise you.
Malik laughed, then turned his camera toward the wounded, the repair crews, and the residents whose names had never appeared on a ranking.
Graybridge, the points were not the score. If you're still hunting for rank, stop. Find a route, a clinic, a pump, or a person who needs your strength.
Dawn reached the city at 6:08 the next morning. The library no longer held the largest population because it no longer needed to. Its circulation desk became a coordination table. Its reading rooms became temporary wards, and its children's wing became a quiet place again. Lewis returned from the final bus run, carrying a transit map marked with a small green triangle.
My daughter used this mark whenever she changed routes. She passed through the East Depot after dark.
Then she left a trail she expected you to understand.
She always said buses were promises with wheels.
Smart woman.
Smarter than the mechanic who taught her.
Dana posted the clinic's new capacity beside the library entrance, including the treatments it could not provide.
Transparency is less comforting than hope, but it wastes fewer antibiotics.
Caleb stood before the public map as new blue requests appeared beyond the streets they had saved. The West District had no clean water. The university shelter had power and too many injured people. 3 apartment blocks had not answered at all.
You are doing the face again.
What phase?
The one where you turn a disaster into columns.
Columns can become routes.
Then put my name beside medical.
Caleb added Dana to the next response card, then added his own name beside the decision. He was still afraid of being wrong. The city had not rewarded him by taking that fear away. It had given him something better, people who could see the same evidence, challenge the same choice, and carry the result together.
New verified public need received. West District water service unavailable. Response requested.
Open a new incident board.
Outside, the last red number vanished from the morning sky. Blue roots spread across Graybridge, not because one survivor had become strong enough to own the city, but because ordinary people had become useful to one another. And for the first time since the world ended, the city was no longer waiting to be saved.